And it's exciting to see this moving forward, because when we brought that forward at the federal level, our recommendation to the Government of Canada was work with municipal, provincial, and territorial governments and agencies to deliver broadband funding that will help maximize capital for broader internet access. So I see this pilot project as, you know, some of these resources that is going to help our municipality and our province and our country get back on track, because we know there's a need. And business should be able to operate in confidence and not worry whether or not. I've already been on one meeting this morning where our internet has been in and out and in and out, and it can get frustrating. And that's just a Zoom call. So when you're trying to operate your corporation, it's extremely important. So thank you, Stu, and your team for putting this together and helping the chamber, asking us at the chamber to help communicate this process. So I will just hand it over to you, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Dominica, do you want to, I'll say keep going, or do you want me to go on from here?
Whatever works. I think on the list next we had Trevor speaking. So I know you're in your car, so I can help guide the conversation a little bit for you.
Thanks, that's great. Yeah, I knew that Trevor would want to come in next, so that's great.
All right, good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here. Appreciate Cindy for the introduction to the concept and what's going on here. Economic Development has been working with the city, actually. We partnered with the city back in 2015 on the Intelligent Community Initiative. And that was an attempt to elevate the importance of broadband and sort of the impact of a digital economy. And I think I'm preaching to the choir here. You're all very much aware that it's increasingly a digitally powered global economy. And in order for Lethbridge to compete, we have to have the connectivity. There are jurisdictions around the world with significantly faster and more available internet speeds. And so we want to be competitive with that new digital economy. We also know, I think I'm preaching to the choir here, that the pandemic has fundamentally changed how we work. Adriana and I were chatting before some of you joined us, the fact that it's now acceptable to attend meetings in this way. And you know, that's going to be the way things work moving forward. So whether it's education or commerce or the innovation ecosystem, distributed learning, things are happening differently. And so Lethbridge needs broadband to be able to maximize that. And we, you know, fundamentally, I think broadband has become an essential utility. So it's no different than electricity. I missed that one last time. Sewer, water, you know, internet is what powers our economy. It's what powers our world. So it needs to be just as important. And so really excited to see this pilot come to fruition. It's been a long haul. Lots of players involved over the last 5 or 6 years bringing it together. And I think I would echo what you likely are thinking, that we'd like to see more happen faster. But the reality is it's a very complex regulatory world, and there's lots of things that we need to navigate and make sure we're responsible with tax dollars. And so this pilot will help us do that. And I'm excited for that to get underway and for us to make some progress with better broadband in Lethbridge. So with that, I'll toss it back to you, Dominica.
Great, thanks so much, Trevor. Next up, it looks like we have Kelly from Hull All sharing a bit of his story.
Hi, thanks, Dominica. First of all, good morning, everyone. And I want to thank Stu for inviting me to represent the Industrial Association of Southern Alberta, commonly known as IASA, as well as Hull All Equipment as one of its members to speak in support of improved bandwidth connectivity in the Churchill Industrial Park where we're located. I want to just give you a little bit of context about IASA. For those of you who don't know, the association is made up of 24 companies with a combined workforce of approximately 2,000 employees. And what that means for our community is that that's 6,000 people that are supported by the jobs, directly supported by the jobs that are offered through members of IASA. And an even more impressive number is that we contribute over $440 million to the local economy through wages and supply contracts. Our membership is made up of companies that compete not just provincially, but also nationally and internationally. And our competitiveness and productivity is directly impacted by our local infrastructure. And in our digital age, that means having access to fast and reliable bandwidth, allowing us to communicate effectively with our employees and our customers. Now, I've heard through our membership that their ability to compete for customers across Canada and the US is constrained by the lack of reliable high-speed internet. And for those businesses that do not have the resources to pay for high-speed satellite connections, they remain at a distinct disadvantage compared to businesses with the digital infrastructure that facilitates competitiveness. And for the businesses that actually pay for it, they too are at a disadvantage because they have a higher cost of doing business. So not a good scenario when we don't have adequate digital infrastructure. So turning now to our own experience here at Holol, we recently made the decision to implement a fully integrated ERP system. And our goals with that ERP system were really threefold. One, we wanted to support our growth in local production. We wanted to better communicate with our growing dealer network across Canada and the US. And we also wanted to empower our in-field sales force, as well as our customers, our customer base, to order directly. And in order to do that, we needed high-speed internet. We also needed a very a robust configurator, and that robust configurator needed to be supported with robust bandwidth. So, you kind of get an idea for where I'm going with this. When choosing the ERP, we had a choice between cloud or on-site. The problem with on-site is that we would need to invest heavily in a lot more capital to support the servers and whatnot. So our preference was to go cloud, but the digital infrastructure just wasn't there. So we needed to therefore invest significantly more capital dollars for our on-site option. And even with that, we needed to sign on to a 3-year internet satellite contract. And so we ended up paying a lot more for satellite internet connection, and we ended up paying a lot more for the hardware required for the on-site option of our ERP, simply because we didn't have the digital infrastructure here in the industrial park. So we made that decision October of 2020. So it's just a little bit too late for us to optimize our ERP decision. But that being said, we are, if this program rolls out the way we think it's going to roll out, we would be willing to accept the early cancellation fee on our satellite contract in order to take advantage of the proposal that Stu's put forward here. So that's my story. 2 stories wrapped up into one, IASA and Holol. And I'm sure a lot of you can appreciate those stories from your own perspective. And I hope that helps. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kelly. We appreciate that. Next, I have Adriana from FlexiHopper.
Hi, thank you, Dominica. Good morning, everyone. Stu, thanks for inviting us. I also have a story that Stu wanted me to share with you guys about what has happened with FlexiHopper. We're in the same industrial park, Churchill Industrial Park, as Holol, and our internet has always been very slow. We have 20 megabytes, slower than our home, way slower than what we have at home. So when COVID hit, we've managed with this, but when COVID hit and I had any meetings or any Zoom calls or anything like this, I would not be able to hold a meeting on my office. I'll have to run home to hold a meeting in my house because the internet was more reliable there than here. Fast forward before that, Shaw approached us saying they wanted to start installations if we wanted it, and we were desperate. Of course we wanted it. So it took 2 years for them to do all the installations and to dig and to do all that. And then Stu called me and approached me about the city, and I'm like, yes, we need it, we do it, let's do it. And it's literally hours later of me hanging out with Stu, Shaw was here. connecting and getting everything ready. And I walked into the office and what are you guys doing here? Like, it was 2 hours later, or like even the next morning, they were here installing everything, getting us connected. So right now I am in my office through Shaw, but the same as Kelly mentioned, we are willing to jump into and support the city's project for sure, getting a cancellation fee and supporting this initiative. It's nowadays, especially with COVID now, we cannot afford not to have broadband. We cannot afford to operate on terrible connection. If we needed it before, now we need it more than ever. So we're excited to support this initiative. We're excited to see where this takes and having reliable connection for everything, for ERP system as well. Like our upgrades have been limited because of that. So many things will be very beneficial for us. So excited to see this project take over, Stu. Thank you.
Thank you, Adriana. So I guess, Stu, it's over to you to complete the presentation.
Sounds good. Thanks, Dominica, and certainly thanks to customers within Churchill to speak about their experience. They were early people that I spoke with simply because I'll just give you a little bit of my past. Up until March 11th, I was the electric utility manager for the city of Lethbridge. But when the opportunity came to lead a new initiative of establishing broadband communication in a pilot way was brought to me, I jumped at that opportunity and requested my director to provide that opportunity for me to bring that service. And so, of course, I started with people that I knew the best from there. Dominica, can we go to the next slide? I do want to give some background here from the city of Lethbridge's perspective. And I want to start that discussion with, I really appreciate the tone of the start of this meeting, and it's about partnership, and it's about partnering with the community to bring that much needed broadband connectivity to you. But I want to just give you a little bit of a history as to how we arrive here today. And this would normally be done by Vicki Bennett, our intelligent community lead. And actually to take you back to how that was established. So back in 2014, City Council approved an initiative to establish the Intelligent Community Initiative to look at these issues within the entire city of Lethbridge and start, I'll say, strategizing as to how to solve some of the issues that were starting to appear as more and more connectivity requirements were required. After Vicki was hired into the IT department, she quickly organized the Connectivity Working Group, which you heard Trevor Lewington speak to. That was bringing together many users into that construct to talk about challenges and what was the route forward. One of the key outcomes of that Connectivity Working Group was a fairly lengthy report written by a technical consultant by the name of Churmick, which spoke to the opportunities that did exist in the community. But it was a very long and daunting report to read. And so the Connectivity Working Group, and Vicki in particular, distilled that down to a 15-page document that could then be presented to council and to the community and talk about the importance of connectivity. Vicki, as the Intelligent Community Coordinator, would talk about many aspects that make an intelligent community, and that's the graphic that you see on the slide here. An intelligent community enables a knowledge-based workforce by giving them that opportunity. I'm sorry, but my screen is letting me see all the things, digital inclusion services. Dominica, can you help me out as to the right of knowledgeable workforce? I'm just not familiar enough with Zoom. Oh yes, here I can get rid of that. Innovation being largely led by that around the block more easily, and sustainability being the other key factor that is enabled through the intelligent community. But at the base of all this, it kept coming back to connectivity, and the intelligent community community working group as well as the connectivity working group kept coming back to the number one concern here is to create better connectivity within the community. So while council was being informed of this and very much wanted to assist in these, funding continued to be the issue. We also saw the Chamber and EDL coming very actively with engagement and wanting to partner with the city to make a difference here. And City Council was hearing that. The issue with funding is that this is not an inexpensive thing to do, to bring fiber optics through the streets and deliver it properly in a reliable fashion is something that takes great effort in the right of way, and maybe one of the reasons why the existing ISPs have been so reluctant to bring funding to the industrial park in particular. So while we were doing this work, we continued to not see investment from the ISPs, and therefore we continued to drive forward to try to find a way. Vicky did a lot of researching into federal granting opportunities, and there are a number of them, but none of them fit with Lethbridge. They were all about rural and remote connectivity. And according to those grants, Lethbridge was well served from a connectivity perspective, but we knew that it wasn't well served in all areas. And in particular, the industrial parks kept coming back as a underserved, definitively underserved area. Then, as many people have alluded to, the pandemic really changed everything overnight as far as the absolute requirements now, but it also brought concepts of stimulus funding and where would that best be spent. The City of Lethbridge had been approved for Investing in Canada infrastructure program funding for various initiatives. However, the federal government opened that up to say, if you would like to redirect pre-approved funding under the COVID-19 Resiliency Fund, that was allowed. And that included things like investment in broadband infrastructure. When that was brought to council, they immediately made the decision to say, yes, please, let's get that in front of ICIP and see if our pilot areas of Churchill and Shearing would be applicable. And we received the answer back that yes, it would be applicable. And that's when the work really started to begin. Dominique, I think the next slide would be good at this point. And that's really where I entered. Vicky did all the hard work. She made sure that everybody understood. She partnered with the community. She brought all that information back. And now all of a sudden we had an agreement with the federal government that funding would be made available. However, the notice of that funding wasn't actually technically with us until February, but we knew late in the year that it was likely that it would come. And that's when I was asked to become involved because of my background in installing linear infrastructure with the electric utility. So because we haven't built this type of infrastructure before, we immediately went out in an RFQ and obtained the assistance of the IBI group, which is a consulting firm that operates both in Canada and internationally, but has a very recognized expertise in municipal broadband systems and their development. And so we had them retained in early January, but again, we had to hold until the federal government actually told us that we had the go-ahead, which didn't happen until February the 19th. So we have been working really swiftly with IBI because the grant condition is that all of this work and spending needs to occur in 2021. We have completed already the work of a preliminary design and the specs and standards required to, I'll say, install what we consider reliable and robust infrastructure. And we issued an RFQ for now the detailed design and the build of that network was issued just a couple of weeks ago now on April the 19th. That competition closes on May 17th, and we will have it evaluated and start to enter into contractual relationships with that builder by May the 25th. So it's our expectation that we will be hitting the streets of both Churchill and Shearing right after the Canada Day long weekend is what we project. Those things will be details that the construction contract will we'll nail down, but we do want you to know that we'll be moving swiftly here, and that we'll have a lot of engagement with you beyond this meeting to talk more about you know, what's next. We wanted to make sure today you understood that we're coming, and we're coming very rapidly with the deployment of the system into these two areas. I think the next slide, Dominica. So the preliminary financial modeling work that's being done as we work through those preliminary designs. Sorry, better silence that. Oh, come on. Well, my car is holding on to that. Sorry. I usually hold meetings from my office, not in my car. Sorry. So we've done the preliminary financial modeling, and they'll be better informed when we actually have the design build contract finalized. And based on that, we'll be able to much clearer get into defining what the rates and what the connection fees will need to be. We need to keep those connection fees, I'll say, competitive in the market, while we provide a much higher level of service than the park currently enjoys, to make sure that we're meeting your functional requirements in the future to grow in that digital side. We have begun work on an operating model, and that really means who is going to provide services over top of this network once we have it installed in the ground, who will light it, and who will make sure that your connection to the internet and to other, you know, potential business processes like telephone, like perhaps cable television even, who will make sure that that occurs. We've just begun that work, and that will help inform, again, what products and services that we'll be communicating to you by early June. We plan to be out and start talking about those things with you. So we will put out a request for quotation for an operator. We plan to issue that the second week of May. We'll close it in the second week of June and award it. And then that will help us to get out to you with rates and service offerings by June 25th. And that's when we'll actually be, in whatever way COVID allows us, to hit the streets to bring that information directly to you. Both marketing and consent to actually install the facilities to get them to your property, that will begin around that start of construction on July 5th as well. And early on, I think Kelly and Adriana both shared a story, and I appreciate their commitment to potentially canceling contracts and picking ours up. But I do want you to know that we certainly anticipate a transition to get a significant number of people onto our system. And I believe that there'll be a simple way to transition, and it won't always mean that you just need to pay a cancellation fee to get out. Many people will actually probably enjoy a couple of connections for a period of time while they sense what that new service is and what it provides for them. Again, we'll be out and talking to you more about those things as we've got our operating model more established. So I want to not talk for too long so that there's lots of question and answer time. Dominica, I think that's it for slides, if I'm correct. Yep. So I would like to turn it back to Dominica so that she can, I'll say, moderate then the question and answer section.
So thank you so much, Stu, for that presentation. I'm going to pass it back to Cindy, our CEO, and she's going to have some closing remarks for you, and then she'll open up the question and answer period.
Thank you so much. And thank you, everybody, for sharing your stories. One of the reasons that I was kind of into this as well is when I brought forward the policy at the municipal level and then at the debate on the federal level, is my business on the south side, which is a registry service that provides service for the government. We were at the point where we had to bring in Shaw and TELUS. So we are using two service providers to handle our government system and then our POS system. And you know, it was interesting because I remember when we asked TELUS to come in, and they were quite happy that they had to come in and help us, but they knew that they couldn't support them on their own. And we were fortunate that we were able to have two providers come in. you know, where you guys are not able to have any providers come in some cases. So that need is there. I did put in the chat box the link to the policy that we did bring forward, because any feedback for improvement or, you know, take it to that next step, we'd always love to hear from you on any of that. So I will just turn the floor over to questions and answers if you want to put it into the chat box, or our group is small enough today that I think we could probably just kind of take turns. If we see that you've unmuted, we'll know that you have something that you want to share or ask.
Hello, Cindy. It's Trevor,
Hey,
Meridian Manufacturing. Just a question, yeah, the plan to bring that to each facility and each building, et cetera, is that to be able to bring in the telco, you're putting in the infrastructure and then you're kind of reselling that service, you're selling the services, or are you bringing that back to a central spot where then we sort of getting internet through the city or through the other telcos, or what are the thoughts there?
So Trevor, at this point, again, we're just launching into our operating model, but early indications of that would be that because the pilot area for me is big, because I've got a big task in front of me, but it only contains roughly 800 to 900 door fronts that will be looking for services. And we don't honestly believe that we should, at this point, opening it up to a competitive offering of retail ISPs probably won't make sense. And so as we envision the network growing, we would like to see the network become an open access and a competitive space for ISPs to deliver services to you. But as we launch the pilot and bring services to the community by January 1st, we envision signing a relatively short-term contract to make sure that those services are brought efficiently to the network at stage 1. Working with that operator, we will be out to you to define, are your requirements custom, or are they this package? And we would envision, 2 or 3 different standard packages. But if someone has a definitive need for a higher bandwidth connection, or perhaps connecting 2 different facilities together through dark fiber, those are all the things we would want to sit down with you on as we have our operator with us now to go through those logistics.
Okay, perfect.
Oh, we have a question that, let's see. Don't be shy. I can fill in, I can say some things. Trevor, I can put Trevor on the spot. It's always great to, I appreciate the collaboration and the work. I know EDL and a lot of the other team members had already done you guys have done a lot of heavy lifting with all this. So it's taken time. I remember once, and I don't know if I'm sharing this story, what the heck. We were in and we were talking about connectivity, and they were talking about 5G and how some cities are going 5G, and Blaine and I kind of made a little joke of saying, oh, we're lucky if we're like 5.2, right? I mean, we're 2G right now. And so some of that connectivity. So it's nice to see this moving forward. So please feel free to ask more questions or get more clarification, or
Cindy, while you're waiting for questions to come in, I'll just type into the chat box here, getinvolvedlethbridge.ca, and that's a spot where anyone online today could go there and they can register under the broadband pilot project to receive updates. If they want to get a notification about rates, that when all those things happen, Get Involved will track those things and provide updates to people. And that's an excellent way for people to keep, I'll say, in tune with the project if they would like to monitor it in that way.
Good. Thank you very much, Stu. One question I have, is this service right to the door, or do we have to pay from the street to the building?
So right now, the capital expenditure estimate will say that we will get that fiber to you while we are going down your street, as long as you provide that consent. And that for me today is not, then you will definitely take our service for X years. We want to prove that we're an efficient and affordable service. But while we have all of the equipment and process in the street, we want to get as many telco rooms connected to the system as we can, so that it's there for everyone's use in the future.
Okay, and I know this question comes up sometimes. Has the city looked at wireless connectivity? And I remember you talking about this, Stu, in a different conversation that we had. The reach and the bandwidth is there with a superhighway connectivity that's already laid in the ground. Can we set up one tower and have the signal there? Also, is the project anticipating the city be the service provider or just laying the fiber?
So we see ourselves as a long-term infrastructure owner. And again, what we envision is a network where retailers can come in and compete for your service with their good services. So this is similar to many now municipal networks being operated throughout the world. But again, just due to the size of the pilot and the early timing of the network, we would likely, we will sign with a single operator for these first few years. When it comes to wireless, we feel that wireless is would simply be a very short-term measure for people, as fiber is the only real future-proofing that we can do, as no one is actually even understanding the theoretical limits of the communication frequency that can be affected. It is limited by the electronics that are on the end, producing the light signals going back and forth. But as more requirements are found, those electronics get faster and faster. So future-proofing and making sure that you're, I'll say, solidly connected to something that's absolutely reliable is what we want to provide to the community. And wireless has its challenges from a reliability perspective.
Perfect, thank you. Now I do have two hands up, so I want to make sure I capture what they want to say. Blaine, you have your hand up.
Thank you, Cindy, and thank you to everyone. I was just going to actually bring up, I put the hand up there before Stu actually made the comment about the Get Involved Lethbridge.ca, which is a fantastic place to go because, of course, all that information is stored and answers can come from that. But I also just want to thank Cindy and everybody involved in this, because, you know, I remember this conversation that we had here years ago about intelligent communities and kind of a computer nerd when it comes to stuff like this. And I was pushing this for the longest time, and it was really exciting to see what is coming. And it seems at times it's like pushing a wet noodle, I guess, but we're finally there. And it's fantastic that I see Vicky doing this, because I know way back, how many years ago, Vicky, right? And so it's fantastic. Yeah, 5 years. So it's great to see it come to this point. So I just hoping we get it sooner than later. And it sounds like that's the case. So thank you, everyone involved.
Thank you, Blaine. Trevor.
I added my comment in the chat because my four-legged assistant is losing her mind, but as you can hear. But one of the questions we often get is future areas for expansion, Stu. So maybe you can speak to the long-term strategy if this pilot is successful, because that's a question we get quite frequently. Right.
So most importantly, our ability to prove through the pilot to City Council that this is a service that we can deliver as we deliver great services in electric or water, wastewater, et cetera. And then getting their buy-in to continue moving the program forward. To me, logically, south of 9th Avenue is probably just as underserved as north of 9th Ave, but the pilot had to have boundaries, and that's where we drew them for now. But we certainly understand clearly the underservicing of the industrial park area, and it needs to be a priority moving forward. And I believe I'll be in front of the new city council in early November, late November, with the outcomes of how we're doing with the pilot, so they can start to think about decisions about what's next.
Thank you. Another question. We have had fiber trenched into our office. Is there any way our access dark fiber benefit this project?
Sorry, can you do that one more time, Cindy?
So it looks like this organization has had their fiber trenched to the office already. I'm thinking they're asking if they can access your project. Is that, am I saying that right, Sean? It was a question from Sean.
If the question is they've brought their own fiber out to the edge of property, certainly we can look at that. The compatibility issues between cables might be an issue, but it's certainly something that we can sit down and talk about. However, as I said, we've made a commitment to make sure that we get those services extended from the right-of-way to the telco room. And we will get that work done with your consent while we're in every street and avenue over the next 6 months.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I clarified. They have the fiber, but they're not using it. So yeah. I'll let maybe Stu will get the two of you connected to see how we can connect this.
Absolutely.
Now we have, so if you are in the Churchill district and the sharing district, then you would be, this would cover, you'd be part of that pilot project. Because I have Andrea from Lethbridge Gymnastics just wanting to know if they would be included in this.
And I apologize, although I've been here for almost 20 years, I don't know where all these businesses are because I tend to go around the outside of town from substation to substation. So my question would be if you're between 9th Avenue North and Cavendish Road and between 28th Street and 43rd, that entire area will get serviced over the next 6 months.
Awesome. Perfect. Yeah, so they're right north of the Lethbridge Walmart. So
yes.
Yes. Perfect. And we do have a map that we can send out and post to everyone as well.
Yep. And that's on getinvolvedlethbridge.ca as well.
Excellent. Now, have I missed any of the questions? Because I want to make sure. Vicki, did you want to add anything now that we have you here? We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, I apologize for being late. I was in another meeting. I joined just as Stu was talking about the background of looking for grants and funding opportunities for any kind of broadband infrastructure. And he did a great job explaining the situation and that the federal government feels that we are well served, even though we know that that's not the case. So he did a really good job of explaining the situation, but I'm happy to take any questions if there are any.
Everybody's excited that it's Thursday and that we're that much closer to Friday. Just like Trevor just put in the chat, that it's exciting to see the progress, that it's been a long haul involving many partners. So, thank you to everybody that continues to push this forwards. Now, there was a question around the project in the city of Olds and their Wi-Fi infrastructure. And I remember having a conversation with Vicki about Olds. Did you want to maybe touch base on that at all, Vicki?
We could talk a little bit about what Olds has done and why. They, many years ago, we're probably talking about 15 years ago now, they really wanted to improve connectivity in their community. And so they reached out to Telus and Shaw, who had various levels of excitement about improving the service in their areas. So they had a verbal agreement with Shaw that if Olds put in the infrastructure, Shaw would run service on it. So Olds put in the infrastructure, and then depending on whose story you believe, there was various levels of that's not good enough for Shaw's standards. And so Shaw decided not to provide service. And so Olds had no choice but to become their own ISP. And they had to start delivering service through a company they stood up called ONET. You may have heard of that. So they are now running internet connectivity services along with television and phone service in competition with Shaw and TELUS in their community, and doing very well. They've actually expanded, and now they're offering service in Waterton. And so they have become an ISP that can offer service in other areas on other infrastructure. So it is a potential ISP that could come to play in Lethbridge, as they could offer service on our infrastructure. They've had a lot of lessons learned over the years, and we have consulted with them a lot through our connectivity working group at the City of Lethbridge to understand the journey that they went through, and really not make the same mistakes that they made along the way, and so that we can certainly benefit from their journey. And I think we've been able to do that, and Stu has done a great job standing this up, and really, again, taking advantage of the learnings of that community.
Now, I know there's been, you know, that, and the kind of that debate, if you want to call it, over the wireless satellite versus the dark fiber, and you kind of touched on it a little bit, Stu. But from what I remember from you speaking, it was, you know, that solid connectivity versus the sometimes the unknown of the satellite. Did you want to expand on that a little bit more? Because I know there's always a lot of discussion on that point.
Yes, for sure. And I think it's in particular useful for businesses that have a higher bandwidth requirement than what you have at home. You shouldn't have to do what Adriana had to do, is run home to do something. Your connectivity should be more robust and more strong at work to support all those business processes. So if we think back in time when we used to hear modems pick up and make a squawk, we were happy if we got 9600 baud, 9600 times 8, so a very low number. But think of what we've devised now through systems that now require megabit or even gigabit speed to support very wise now applications running at the ends of those communication networks. Kelly referred to his ERP requiring bandwidth that because he couldn't get it through wire, he went to satellite. But what will the next generation of workers bring that now requires 10 times the bandwidth that we think about as being super today? So anyway, I just, the future proofing and the insurance of having good long-term infrastructure buried in the ground such that weather can't take it out. Nothing can take something out that's 1 meter underground. And I think that's important for people to understand, is our commitment to long-term infrastructure says we don't hang stuff off of poles that may become an issue in the future. I hope I'm still flaky right now, so you let me know if you missed this. But the underground aspect of all parts of the network, including connection points, so that they're not targets for snowplows, these are all aspects that the City of Lethbridge, as a long-term infrastructure operator, is bringing to the table to say, we don't want to provide a service that is just barely there today. We want a service that's there for the next 50 to 100.
Perfect. Thank you, Stu. The expected user fees, so will we get a little more of an idea of that maybe at like in June or July once you see who's bringing some proposals forward? Would that be a fair assumption?
Yes. By middle of June, I plan to have all that information in customer hands and be hopefully hitting the streets, whatever that looks like in COVID times, to bring that information directly to customers in the planned area.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for clarifying timelines on that. Great. Anything else? We've got about 10 minutes left. I think we had it scheduled till 9:30 to 10:30. Let's see. Oh. You know, it was funny, I had forgotten about that sound, the sound that when you were connecting the business, I forgot about the sound. I just had a little flashback there.
It was the sound. It was so cool when you connected.
I'm connected. we there, you know, and we have a long way to go. But it's interesting to think of where we have come from.
For sure.
Yeah.
Am I?
0.6 meg.
Oh, Cameron, yeah, please go ahead, Cameron.
Oh, yeah, it's actually Steve Cameron. I'm own and operate Thermax Refrigeration. Mine's mostly comments. I've been out in this industrial park for quite a few years now. But first and foremost, I want to thank you guys everybody on the panel for their efforts on taking on this project. It's long overdue, and we've been struggling for years. Some of our business operating systems rely on the high-speed internet. And a couple comments I have mostly is in regards to how the internet's working for us. Our office administrator is often frustrated when she's performing tasks at the same time as technicians are in our office and using the internet. Quite often our techs are sourcing parts or uploading photos for project progress, assessment, or bidding purposes. When this occurs, the internet pretty much comes to a standstill for others in the office. Uploading photos is very time consuming. They transfer at the rate of about every 1 to 2 minutes. Another issue we're having in the industrial park here is security on our premises. Over the past couple of years, we've experienced a really large spike in break, enter, and theft, lots of pilfering. In an effort to do our own policing, we installed security cameras. Unfortunately, we found that the internet that we had wouldn't support the bandwidth required. So we got a smart hub and added that to our system. We've had some success. Now we're running about 50% of what it's capable of doing. So lots of intermittent off time on that. We expressed our concerns with TELUS, and TELUS came back with a proposal that we were looking around $30,000 to do an upgrade. And of course, we found that a little high. They commented that they do joint partnerships with Shaw, so they came back with about $25,000. Now, both of these wanted a 5-year commitment, signed document from us to say that we would commit to that over a period of 5 years and pay for that totally. So we kind of thought that was a little bit out of the realm. Getting back to the original intent of this, I can't help but think that internet's become as important as gas, water, and power. So in closing, again, I'd like to thank the committee for taking this on, because it looks like it's going to be a big endeavor. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts. Andrea, I see that you have your hand up.
I'm not going to start my video because I'm still waking up. So we have terrible internet. And so this is really exciting for us because we're with TELUS, and we have to turn on and turn off our Wi-Fi button on our front desk computer a few times before it will connect to the Wi-Fi. And nobody gets cell phone reception in our building. And one thing that we wanted to do, because the pandemic has removed parent viewing from classes that aren't parented is there are a few different companies that you can use to set up cameras and then have parent viewing. They can access it from their phone, except everything needs fiber optic internet. And so, and when we asked Shaw about it, it was like $32,000 to get it into running into our building. And we know that the businesses beside us are also struggling a lot with internet. So this is really nice because it means that we can add external parent viewing to our to the things that we can offer. So we're excited for this. So thanks.
Thank you, Andrea. One question we have is there a map we could get that shows where the existing fiber is?
So, Cindy, I can answer that. The city of Lethbridge has installed fiber optic communications for the electric utility since the 1990s. And it's actually that infrastructure that will backhaul the data from the industrial parks to get it to what are called points of presence, where you have high-speed communication back to an internet exchange. So it's that infrastructure that allows that. I don't know where Shaw and TELUS have and don't have fiber too. Even as the city of Lethbridge, we understand where they have center line of infrastructure, but we are not told what that infrastructure is. So,
okay, thank you for clarifying that.
I saw there was a question about how does the university obtain connection, and maybe Vicky could speak to that more so. I'm not sure if that's through Fibre, Vicky, or not.
Yes, I believe they do get their service through Fibre. I believe, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, I believe their infrastructure comes through the old SuperNet connection. And then, yeah, because they're a public entity, they're able to get service through Fibre.
Yeah, so Fibre is a publicly funded and operated, I'll say, internet infrastructure enabler. So it's not something that the public can use. Sorry, the general public. It's for public entities and healthcare and things like that.
Perfect. And that's one thing that the registries we used to have access to was the SuperNet. So it was easier to run all the programs we had to run. And so
Right.
Once Service Alberta eliminated our level from access to it, that's where we really started to struggle with the requirements.
Right. SuperNet is another system that was installed with Alberta provincial funding to provide connectivity between things like schools and government offices and libraries, etc. But not accessible to, again, the general business population that's out there.
Now, what about whipcord? Because they have a different access point, do they not? Or do we know?
Rose, again, can somebody let me know if they can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Oh, maybe not.
Okay.
Oh, there we go.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yes, so the Tech Connect Center does have access to the City of Lethbridge dark fiber system to provide data to entities like EDL, et cetera, there. And the legacy of Blackbridge networks and then on to, I guess now Whipcord, there is connectivity there as well. In fact, those patch panels will be where likely the data traffic from Shearing Industrial Park will be gathered to that point, and then the city's dark fiber will be used to take it back to a high-speed backhaul to the internet.
Perfect. Well, we have about 2 minutes left. You can tell I'm used to running minutes on a time frame. Neighbors on the street. So is this option open? Will this option be open to every business in this area?
Absolutely.
Okay. Perfect. Excellent. Kelly, you're off. You're not muted. Did you want to add any last thoughts?
It sounds like we're wrapping up here, and so I know that I will regret not saying thank you to Stu for all the hard work. I mean, this is a really important project for not only Hallall but IASA, and it's important for our viability and our sustainability and our competitiveness. I know you're putting in a lot of long hours. I mean, heck, you're even sleeping out of your car there, Stu. But it needs to be acknowledged that all of the hard work that you're putting into this thing, and also the city, the way that the city has pivoted so quickly when that funding became available, and the way that you guys, and Vicky, I can see you're nodding because you're instrumental in this as well. So I just want to thank you guys for the hard work, the pivot, the focus, and the drive to get this done on time and on budget. It's very important for those of us in this industrial area. You get that, and I just want to thank you. And I would regret not putting that out there. So it doesn't go unnoticed. Thank you.
Thanks, Kelly. Really appreciate that.
Thanks, Kelly. And I've always enjoyed partnering with my colleagues at IASA, and I look forward to meeting everybody in the park and actually learning more about the businesses in the park. I come from a small business entrepreneurial background, and it's part of my ability to pivot, because you have to pivot like that when you're in business for yourself and you've only got 4 or 5 or 10 employees to make things work. And I look forward to bringing this service to all of those people so that you've got it to keep expanding what and how you offer your services to.
But just to follow up on that too, that's what makes what's happening at the city right now so remarkable, is that it's not a small organization, it's a big organization. So to be able to pivot, it's a little more difficult, but you guys are doing a great job, and I just want to acknowledge that.
Thanks, Kelly.
Thank you, Kelly. I appreciate you doing that, because there's a lot of good work that is happening, and there's a lot of focus on continuing that economic growth and development in our region. So there's more people that I know we can connect with, and I don't want to commit, Stu, to another town hall, but we know we haven't, you know, we've been very fortunate to have great attendance at the first one. We had good attendance today. And if we need to host another one of these just to get the conversation going and just share it and get it into as many businesses' hands as possible, that's what we need to do so we can have a very successful implementation of this project. So please continue to share the word. Let us know if we need to do another one of these sessions, because we definitely will make time for that. So thank you, everybody, for your time.
And thank you to the Chamber for organizing and giving us a stage here today, because that's what Vicki and I need. And I want to close with, I just doing my job, but Vicki was the one with the passion to make sure this stayed alive and made sure that council fully understood what we were heading into. And I think it's fantastic, the work she's done.
Thanks so much, Stu. It's definitely been a team effort. A lot of people involved along the way. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.